Hi, I'm Sprocket, and welcome to episode 2 of Let's Play the Dungeon of Dread. Where we left off from last episode, we began as a fighter in the forest where we discovered a halfling named Larus. He told us about a treasure hidden in the mountains, protected by an evil wizard named Calaman. The halfling led us to a cave in the side of the mountain where we discovered a skeleton and a pile of leaves. Opposite the skeleton, there was a message that says, "Watch the water that is not water and beware the basilisk." Alright, let's go check out that pile of leaves. The pile looks like a harmless clump of leaves and twigs, perhaps the nest of an animal. However, just to be sure, you place one foot in the middle of the pile, intending to spread the debris out on the floor of the cave. Your foot finds no solid footing, and your arms waving wildly, you lose your balance. Whoosh! You are falling! You slide rapidly down a chute carved from solid rock. The sides are as smooth as glass. You are moving much too fast to stop yourself. You fly out of the chute and land on your back. The fall knocks the breath out of you. You are attempting to catch your breath when, thud, another figure flies through the air and lands on the floor beside you. "Oh," groans Larus. "Oh, I was so scared when you disappeared like that. I thought maybe you were eaten by a monster." "No, not a monster, just a hole. Are you all right? Any broken bones?" "No," he moans. "I'm not hurt." As the two of you catch your breath, you notice you are in a corridor carved from solid rock. A single torch burns in a bracket on the wall, and you can see that a tunnel branches off to your left. Ahead of you, you hear footsteps approaching. A large, ugly man thing walks into your sight carrying a torch. The creature has an ugly snout and long, sharp teeth. It's an orc. It will discover you at any moment. If you choose to try to step into the side tunnel without being discovered, turn to page 22. If you decide to stand and fight the orc, turn to page 20. Although we've equipped the halfling with our dagger, and with the shield that we found from the skeleton in the cave, he's not a fighter, he's a baker's assistant. He probably has some other skills that will come in handy later on, but I don't think this orc is a good first encounter for our halfling. So, let's turn to page 22. The orc draws closer. It will see you at any moment. You kneel down on the ground and grab a small pebble. You jump up and fling it toward the monster. It lands behind him and skips down the corridor. Echoes magnify the sound. The orc spins on its heels and rushes off into the gloom to investigate the mysterious noise. "Quick, Larus," you whisper, running into the side corridor. You hurry along the corridor, which is rough and pocked with signs of mining. Torches set in iron brackets light the way. Boulders and other debris litter the corridor and slow your progress. Just as you begin to feel safe, Larus grabs your arm and says, "I hear someone talking." Halflings have superior hearing, so you do not doubt his word. Quickly you duck behind a large boulder and peer out. You see two goblins coming toward you. One of them carries a torch. They are 4 feet tall with dirty yellow skin and sharp, nasty teeth. The two goblins must be miners because they carry picks and shovels. Maces and short swords hang from their belts. One of them argues over the ownership of a stone the other holds. "Listen, Scrag, I am in charge of this job. Everything we find comes to me to be divided." "How can you divide only one stone, Bloomfell?" demands Scrag. "I think you're trying to steal it from me, you thief." "Who are you calling a thief?" shouts Bloomfell, and it pulls out its short sword. "I'll show you who's a thief. Take this." It strikes Scrag. Let's attack them now, you say, before they attack us. I think we should hide, says Larousse. If we're lucky, they won't see us and maybe we can avoid a fight. If you wish to attack the goblins, turn to page 40. If you do not wish to attack the goblins, turn to page 43. I think these goblins are a little bit easier of a fight than that orc that we ran away from. And we also have the element of surprise. We're definitely going to attack these goblins. So let's turn to page 40. If we move quickly before they notice us and attack, we can surely defeat them, you whisper. Climb on top of this boulder and grab a rock. When I give the signal, you drop the rock on top of the nearest goblin. Are you crazy? Whispers Larousse. I don't want to drop a rock on top of its head. Listen, Larousse, this is no time to argue. Just do as I say. We'll talk about it later. The halfling mumbles into his beard, but scrambles onto the boulder and clutches the rock to his chest. As the goblins pass by, you holler, now! And Larousse drops the boulder on Bloomfell, the goblin closest to you. It falls to the ground. Before Scrag can draw its sword, you leap out and fling yourself upon the evil goblin. You take the goblin by surprise, knocking it to the ground. It rolls out from under you and swings its sword into your shoulder. Enraged, you lash at the goblin with your own sword. The goblin crumples to the ground. You take some cloth from your pouch and begin to bind the wound. Here, let me help, says Larousse, scrambling down the boulder. He takes some more cloth from your pouch and binds the wound as best as he can. As you start to leave the corridor, Larousse stumbles and falls to the ground. He sits on the ground rubbing his foot. Oh, I've stubbed my toe on a stupid rock, he says. He grabs a rock and starts to throw it against the wall, then suddenly stops. What's this? He asks. Will you look at the size of this thing? It's an emerald as large as a pigeon's egg. I've never seen anything so pretty. Larousse sighs, then reluctantly hands it to you. Handing it back, you say, If it hadn't been for your help, we might not have succeeded. Larousse grins and puts it carefully in his pocket. The two of you cover all signs of struggle in the area and continue down the corridor. Soon, the corridor divides. The passage on the right is dimly lit and silent. The passage on your left opens into a small room. From the light of the torches in the corridor, you see one large and several smaller dog-like creatures. They are yapping, yelping, and barking. You reach for your sword. Suddenly, the adult dog disappears and then reappears a full 3 feet away from where it first stood. The pups also disappear and reappear behind the larger creature. Dogs, says Larousse. Oh, I hate dogs. They like to chase me because I'm so little. Show them who's master, Carrick. Chase the mutts away. I don't know, you reply. These are blink dogs and they can be tricky. They're smart and hard to hit if you have to fight them. If you wish to attack them, turn to page 103. If you decide to try to make friends with them, turn to page 96. Well, these are blink dogs, and it looks like maybe a mother with some pups. They don't appear to be aggressive right now, and I think we probably should take advantage of that. So let's try not attacking them unless they show some aggression. So let's turn to page 96. You decide not to attack. Instead, you bow before the blink dogs. They yip and yelp and seem to smile at you. Then blink, they're gone. You are glad you did not fight them. Hey, exclaims Larousse, how did you get them to do that? I wish I'd known that trick when I was young. Dogs always seemed to think I was something good to eat. You do not enter their room. Instead, you continue down the corridor you were following. It turns to the left. Suddenly, blink! The blink dogs appear in front of you with no warning. Ah! Cries Larousse, leaping behind you. They're coming to get me! Make them go away! But the blink dogs crowd about your legs, licking your hands and nipping at your heels. They follow you down the corridor, frisking about and occasionally blinking in and out. The halfling bravely controls his fear of them. You pass a corridor on your right that reflects green light. The dogs avoid the corridor, but you do not. You walk down the corridor just far enough to see a room with a large stone pillar in the center of it. There is a pool of green slime near the base of the pillar, and gobs of the horrible stuff drip from the ceiling and archways in the room. You quickly decide to go back to the corridor where the dogs wait. The dogs are glad to see you return, and they trot down the corridor ahead of you. You are following them when they stop and snarl at the corridor ahead. Bright white fangs threaten an unseen enemy. You are even happier now that you did not choose to fight the dogs. But what has alarmed them so? You hear a strange clicking noise from around the corner. Peering around the corner, you see two skeletons approaching. Both skeletons hold swords in their bony hands. You draw back in horror. If you choose to fight the skeletons with the blink dogs, turn to page 80. If you decide the skeletons are too frightening to face, run back to the slime-filled room and leave the blink dogs to their fate. Turn to page 83. These skeletons sound like they're going to be a handful. I don't think we could have taken them on our own, but since we have the blink dogs as our friends, I think we have a good chance of defeating them. So let's go ahead and turn to page 80. The skeletons round the corner and advance, their swords held high. The dogs jump at the slow-moving skeletons, distracting them, and you land several solid blows on the awful monsters. With the help of the blink dogs, you soon reduce the skeletons to a heap of broken bones. The blink dogs nose around the pile, and each grabs a bone with its mouth. With one last dog-like grin in your direction, they blink away. "Phew," says LaRousse. "That's the closest I've ever come to liking a dog." Heaving a sigh of relief, the two of you chuckle at LaRousse's comment. So we've taken down two skeletons with the help of the blink dogs. I think we can now safely return to the green glowing room with the slime. So let's turn back to page 83. I guess we'll have to figure out a way to deal with the green slime, you say. A large pillar rises near the edge of the slime, and you sit at the base of the pillar to think. Suddenly, LaRousse jumps up and pushes the pillar. It budges slightly, but does not tip. "What are you doing?" you ask. "I'm going to build a bridge," LaRousse says. With that, you understand his plan. The pillar is clearly long enough to reach the far side of the slime. If you can tip the pillar into the slime, you can walk across it to the far side. You jump up and push the pillar, groaning with effort. At first, it doesn't move, but it finally topples into the slime pool, stretching clear to the other side. It shatters into many pieces. "How do we protect ourselves from the slime dripping from the arch?" asks LaRousse. You watch the dripping slime for a moment. "Like this, and pray it works," you answer. Gathering your courage, you drape your cloak over your head, making a tent-like shield for your body. You race across the pillar, taking care not to step on any slime that has splashed onto it. Two droplets of green slime fall on your cloak and begin eating it away, but you are now safe on the other side of the slime pool. Quickly, you fling the cloak away and watch in fascination as it hisses, foams, and bubbles. At last, the dreadful substance totally consumes your cloak. LaRousse has followed and is no more than a pace behind you. He flings his cloak away and watches it dissolve into a hissing, bubbling mass. "Calaman certainly knows how to greet visitors," says the halfling. "Let's get on with our adventure." You stare in amazement at the halfling. Can this be the same man you had to encourage only a short time ago? You are in what appears to be a storeroom. LaRousse strides away confidently and begins to examine the stores of food and water. You join him, deciding to risk eating the food, for your own provisions are now low. You are both hungry and thirsty. After eating and drinking, you discover a supply of clothes and replace your cloaks. "Well," says LaRousse, stretching, "I'm ready to go again. Come on, let's be on our way." LaRousse leads the way out of the room and into a corridor on the left. After a time, the corridor divides once again. The corridor on the left is dark and silent. It looks unsafe. If you choose this passage, turn to page 62. The corridor on the right is equally dark and silent, but slopes down slightly. If you choose this path, turn to page 102. Well, dark and unsafe sounds interesting. Let's take the passageway on the left. Turn to page 62.